And welcome to the Factor Uncensored. Will Houston School District be controlled by your people, locally elected officials, or an appointed one out of Austin? The latter is now a strong possibility with a recent ruling from the state Supreme Court just today. That ruling would give the Texas Education Agency over all school districts in the state the opportunity and the authority to put a conservator in place to take over if schools are underperforming and the Board of Trustees is dysfunctional. State Senator Paul Bettencourt says this is exactly what's needed in Houston. Take a listen. What did you see specifically with the Board of Trustees that gave you pause, that made you concerned that maybe now a conservative needs to take over and push those guys to the side?
Oh, I tell you, back then, it's real simple. I've never seen a school board that hired H. Cerveda literally at a Mexican restaurant with 5 members out of 9, walking quorum, and then fired him and rehired Granny Latham 2 days later at a press conference. It was just unimaginably outside the bounds of Texas Meeting Acts, Open Records Acts, everything. And then there was a TEA report that was stunningly bad from that group of over 100 pages of bad contracts, bad hiring practices, a board that was so confrontational, it was pathetic. Oh, yeah, everything there. I didn't have to look too far to say, yeah, get rid of that board and bring in a new one, because that was also on the table at the time.
Now, that was a different group of board members. Only a few remain. And, of course, we're here now with our guests on the Factor Uncensored to talk about that issue. Current HISD trustee Kathy Bluford Daniels, former trustee and now state representative Jolanda Jones, and state representative Ron Reynolds. So, Kathy, when you hear what Paul had to say, State Senator Paul Bettencourt had to say, do you hear anything that's familiar? Because I have talked to a lot of people, and they're saying there's a faction, there's a Hispanic group, there's a black group, there's those who may vote with both sides. Was there a problem with HISD school board back then?
There were big problems back then. Obviously, this is a new board. We only have 2 remaining school board members that were on that board at that time. And I understand the purpose of 1842, and that was to ensure that all of our children are getting a proper education, that they have positive outcomes. They use continuously Wheatley as a poster child to talk about the failures of schools in HISD. But let me just tell you, I am a graduate of the Phyllis Wheatley High School. So nobody's going to work harder for these schools, especially in these minority communities, than those of us that are there present on this board today. Jolanda
Jones, you remember what the board was like back then. You were there. You were present. Is State Senator, obviously you may not agree with where he's going, but do you agree with where he was and what his assessment was of the board back then?
So I believe that Bettencourt wants to take over HISD because it's an urban district, but that's another story for another day. I will tell you that only 2 people left from that board, Sue Dygard and Elizabeth Santos.
But real quick, do you agree there were problems back then?
Yes, there were problems, right?
Yeah.
In that long TEA report he talked about, the only one who didn't do anything wrong was me, okay? And was me, and one of the walking quorum people was Elizabeth Santos. So she's there, but for the most part, the community and the voters got rid of them. So it's better now. And let me be clear, Wheatley was made to fail after. So like they would have been the score, but TA changed the goal line.
That's true. Right?
They changed the goal line. And I think TA did that to get Wheatley because they want to take over HISD. The board is different now. It's different. But there was a faction of people where Bettencourt did talk about them having a walking quorum, meeting at a restaurant, and firing illegally Dr. Layton and hiring Abe Saavedra.
Someone we had fired or released long ago.
Right, because he had closed a whole bunch of black schools. And then, let me be clear, I'm very proud to say that we had a retreat, and I worked very hard to get Saavedra out of here. And I told him I have nothing better to do than sue you individually and sue you as a superintendent for doing illegal stuff. And he said, I take my name out of the hat. So that problem was fixed. That's why we had the press conference. And if you look at that press conference, even then Elizabeth was pouting because she was upset that their bad deeds were undone. So HISD has fixed itself.
All right. So State Representative Ron Reynolds, what's wrong with having a watchdog over HISD?
Well,
from your position.
Here's the thing. TEA is over all of the schools across the state of Texas.
And for those who don't know, TEA is the Texas Education Agency.
Right.
They're over every school in
so
Texas.
There's already a watchdog. And the people that are closest to the community is the local representative. What the TEA is in essence saying that they want to usurp local control by getting rid of the duly elected school board members that are elected by single member districts that are close to the community. They want to replace that with appointees from Greg Abbott and the TEA, Commissioner Mike Moraff. And in essence, what they want to do is replace people that are willing to fight for their community schools, people that are products of their communities, like Trustee here from Wheatley, Representative Jolanda Jones from 3rd Ward, and people from their local communities, and replacing them from some bureaucrats that are beholden to Governor Abbott for some political favors that may believe in vouchers or charter schools or privatization or critical race theory. So in other words, they want to be able to say, we don't like what the people in the community want. We want to replace them with people who believe in our philosophies. It's wrong. HISD has had so much success. You're talking about one of the largest school districts in the country, and you're talking about one school, and that's why you want to do a takeover. To me, it's a rules for a power grab so that they can make sure that they control and not people who look like the community.
And who else, other than the representatives that have been elected, feels the pulse of the communities? We're out there in the communities. We run into people at the stores, at the gas station, that tells us issues that they may have with their children. 40 of 54 schools last year, in the last year, have come off IR under this leadership, under this new board. 40 of 54. We had 54 failing. So let that resonate. So 40 came off. Obviously, we're doing the work, and we're improving, and we've got our eye on the prize, and that's our student outcome.
And I'll give you a perfect example. We live in the community. We love the community. People told me, hey, you need to go back and fight for Tiffany Guillory at Yates. I drove in from Austin last night, tired, and went to the board meeting to fight for the principal that my neighborhood wanted. But guess what? I ain't seen nobody from TEA there.
That's right.
Fighting for the
community. Lastly, if the people in the community don't like what they're doing, guess what? They can unelect her. They can fire her and hire somebody else.